the Supervisors meeting on Monday, December 6th, 2021. If we can all rise and pledge allegiance, and if we could take this moment of silence.
Not yet.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Quirple, roll call.
Mr. Tosti?
Here.
Mr. Kizak?
Here.
Ms. Strauss?
Here.
Ms. Payne? Sean? All right. We also have Township Solicitor, Mr. Esposito, Township Manager, Mrs. Tully Cools, and Township Engineer, Mr. Kessler.
Thank you, Ms. Quirple. The next Board of Supervisors meeting will be tentatively for Monday, December 20th, 2021 at 7 p.m. right here in this room. We do have a couple upcoming events. On Thursday, December 9th from 5:30 to 8:30, we have our holiday open house right here in this, right here at the Municipal building. Most of it will be outdoors, free admission. We will have our horse-drawn wagon rides, live music, and a DJ, face painting, holiday shopping, pictures with Santa, mechanical snowboard rides, food trucks, and an outdoor beer garden. The Neshaminy High School Orchestra will perform from 7:30 to 8 o'clock right here in this room. Check the township website for a full activity list and parking information. And then please bring a non-perishable food item. A food donation will benefit the Emergency Relief Association Food Pantry of Lower Bucks County. We also, on the agenda, we have the Woofapalooza, but it has been canceled, so I won't make that announcement. We did take a moment of silence in honor of Sergeant Mark Wirt. And Chief, do you want to?
Good evening, Mr. Tosti and fellow board members. I want to say a few words in honor of Sergeant Mark Wirt. Mark was a devoted husband and loving father and grandfather. He served his country honorably for 5.5 years in the Air Force. He served for many years as a volunteer with the William Penn Fire Company. But as far as professions go, Mark's passion was the Middletown Township Police Department. Mark served MTPD honorably for 33 years, from 1981 to 2014, the last 18 of those years as a sergeant. Mark started the MTPD Honor Guard and laid the groundwork for what our Honor Guard is today, the best police honor guard in Bucks County. Mark was the police department's emergency management coordinator for many years, and through that position, he established what would be lifelong friendships and great working relationships well beyond the police department with all the volunteer fire companies, the rescue squad, county emergency management, our own fire marshal's office, and our township administration. But more than anything, Sergeant Mark Wirt left behind a legacy in our police department of great leadership, lifelong friendships, and amazing accomplishments. He was regarded as a gentleman, a great coworker, a dear friend, and a devoted and dedicated police officer and sergeant. Personally, I was fortunate enough to have met Mark in 2014. I stayed in contact with him regularly up until his passing, and I got to say goodbye to him in person the day before he passed last Tuesday. Mark was, without a doubt, one of the most dedicated police officers and sergeants that Bucks County has ever seen. So I pray that he rest in peace. I pray for peace and comfort for his family, and I do thank you and the board for giving me this time to honor Mark, who was such a valuable member of our police department and who passed last week. So thank you, Mr. Tosti.
Thank you, Chief. And I mean, we can have another moment of silence for Officer Wirt. Thank you, Chief.
Can I say a few more words for our next two items that are coming up? So I'll go last. The first, I do want to thank you personally and you, Ms. Strauss, for the last 6 years of working very closely with the police department, for all the support you've given us. I know sometimes I ask for quite a bit, but I think it definitely gets put to good use, and I think it benefits our community, and I really do appreciate the fantastic working relationship that the police department has had with you, Mr. Tosti, and you, Ms. Strauss, and for all of your support, not just of me, but of the entire police department. It's been a pleasure to work with both of you, so I just wanted to thank you for the last 6 years. And I also would like to I know we're going to acknowledge Paula Kearns next, and I did want to thank Paula personally for her work with the Community Foundation. It directly benefits the police department with support for our canine unit. But not only the police department with canines, but our community in general. Paula does a fantastic job of running the Community Foundation. It's going to be big shoes to fill with her absence. and she has definitely been a great partner for the police department to work with over the past few years, and especially with her support of our canine unit. So I want to thank Paula for that. And with that, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thanks for the kind words. Like the Chief said, next on our agenda is recognition of Paula Kearns, Executive Director of the Middletown Community Foundation. Ms. Kearns, she is part of the Middletown Community Foundation, and it was founded as a 501 nonprofit in July of 2000 to expand the potential for grant funding in the community. Paula was instrumental in the year leading up to its founding in compiling and submitting the necessary paperwork to create the foundation. The Middletown Community Foundation held its first meeting in 2001 and elected officers. Paula volunteered to be the executive director since she liked doing the administrative work and knew the nonprofit requirements. Paula and 10 other board members shared our vision for the community with other local leaders, quickly expanding it to 25 members. Paula has been on the board and served as the executive director since the very beginning, facilitating the efforts of 75 different board members during her tenure. The Middletown Community Foundation has provided many funds to the township and the school district to help them provide programs, equipment, and services that otherwise might not have been available. Paula has played a key role in several major events and sponsorships supported by the foundation, including 4 canine officers in the police department, dozens of scholarships for local students, and one of their biggest annual events held just yesterday, Shop with a Cop, which provides children in need with gifts for their families while building an important relationship between those kids and our police officers. Paula cites immense gratitude for being part of the inception of the organization that has helped many in our community. She hopes it will inspire others to become involved in community service. Me personally, Paula has helped me from the time I've known her and her husband, Tom. She helped me to provide the scholarship that I do to a student each year. Because of Paula, I'm able to continue to do that. And I owe a debt of gratitude, there you go, to Paula and her husband, but for Paula and everything she's done for me. So thank you, Paula, and thank you, Tom. And
thank you very much. Very kind words. I appreciate everything, Chief Porterilla. And I also want to express my condolences about Mark. I worked with Mark for many years, and he was a great guy, and he's going to be missed. But thank you for the honor that you're bestowing on me. But it's just been great for me. I have enjoyed every single minute that I've served on the Middletown Community Foundation, and I'm not leaving the board. I'm just stepping back as executive director as we move on to another chapter in our life. And I also want to correct that Wolfapalooza is not canceled. It's just postponed until next spring.
Okay.
Thank you.
I thank you for that correction. So I do have a plaque here. It's presented with gratitude and recognition to Paula Kearns, Middletown Community Foundation Executive Director, 1999 to 2021, in appreciation for your significant service and contribution to the Middletown Township community, given to you on December 6, 2021. We also have Representative Davis and Representative Farry here, and we have somebody, Ryan from Representative Fitzpatrick's office here too, that wants to say a few words for you too, Ms. Kearns.
Thank you.
Well, I'm thrilled for. Where are you? Who am I looking at? These are for you. Sorry. I want to thank you for all the work that you guys have done over the years. I am so thrilled with your new chapter in your life, and you deserve all of that. But you have been a wonderful community partner, and I appreciate knowing you over the years. I'm going to miss you too.
Thanks, and Paula, thank you again for everything you have done in leading and helping, actually, with the creation of the Middletown Community Foundation. As somebody that was here for part of its infant stages and working with you on, I know how much time and energy you put in to the creation of the foundation, as well as its success for the last couple decades. We have a recognition. Senator Tomlinson could not be here this evening, but we have a recognition for you from the Pennsylvania State Senate, and likewise on behalf of myself, Representative Davis, and Representative Galloway, we have a recognition for you from the PA PA House of Representatives, which we will leave here for you. So thank you again, and best wishes to you and Tom as you move on to your other pursuits.
Thank you, Frank, and thank you for being treasurer of the foundation for many years.
Hi, Paula. Well, we've never had the pleasure to meet. I am with Congressman Fitzpatrick's office, and I've heard a lot of good things about you. So we also have some recognition for you as well. The Congressman sends his best wishes. If I can get this open, I apologize. We just wanted to recognize you for 22 years of honorable service to our community as Executive Director of the Middletown Community Foundation. So thank you for everything you've done for our community.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Please thank the congressman for me.
Oh, yes. Paula, we all had a flag flown over the United States Capitol in your honor as well. If you can see this, I don't know where the camera is.
Yes, I can see it.
So
Thank
again,
you.
Thank you for your community, for your service to our community, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Tina, I wish I could get those flowers, but we're in California.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Representative Davis. Thank you, Representative Farry. And Paula, thank you for everything you've done for our community over the years. Thank you very much.
Well, you're quite welcome, and I'm not, like I said, not leaving the board, just stepping back a little bit. It's time for somebody else to step forward and take over. So here's to many more years of doing stuff for the betterment of Middletown Township, the community I love.
Hear, hear. Does anybody else want to say anything?
Yeah, we actually have some more recognitions tonight. As many of you may know, but for those of you that don't, the terms of Supervisor Tosti and Supervisor Strauss are coming to an end, and so we did want to take an opportunity to recognize them. I just want to say, personally and professionally, you two have both been mentors to me, and I appreciate all the knowledge and advice and feedback and guidance that you've given to me and to the other members of the board all these years. It's been an honor to call you colleagues, and it's been an even bigger honor to call you both friends, so thank you. As a resident of this community, I also want to just acknowledge that you are two of the most dedicated and hardworking public servants that I've ever seen, and this township is stronger and better as a result of the two of you. And so the entire township owes you a debt of gratitude, and so we thank you. And I hope you enjoy, both of you, some well-deserved free time with your families, and we all look forward to seeing what's next for the two of you. So we do have So on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, we have for each of you, since you both did tours of duty as chair, we have a gavel which is presented with gratitude and recognition and appreciation of your significant service and contribution to the Middletown Township community, December 6, 2021. And we have one for each of you. And then again, we have State Representative Tina Davis and State Representative Frank Ferry are both here.
So it's an honor for me to be here tonight. Both of you, Tom and Amy, have become my friends over the years. I want to say, too, that what Rep. Kizak already said, you're both mentors to me. I've never seen two harder working councilmen. And for people in the audience and out there in TV land, it's a thankless job so often, because there's always people that are on one side of the issue and the other side of the issue. So you did it with grace, both of you. You made a lot of wonderful additions to Middletown Township, including the skateboard park, the support of the police department, the veterans memorial that you aided with. And I just want to thank you, and I love both of you. And Tom, these are for your wife for all the years that you have not been home. Sorry. And Amy, these are for you.
And on behalf of your state elected officials, we have a recognition that Senator Tomlinson sponsored through the state Senate. We have a recognition from the House on behalf of Representative Davis, Galloway, and myself. But I have to say, I think serving in local government is quite often more challenging than those of us that have it as a full-time job, because you have full-time jobs on top of your responsibility of managing and making decisions on behalf of one of the largest municipalities in the state. As somebody that spent 7 years sitting actually right where Nick is right now, actually first 2 years were in the old township building, I know how much work goes into the jobs you do as supervisors and the responsibilities that come with that, the thanklessness that Representative Davis referred to. So thank you for stepping up and serving the community and spending the last 6 years making a difference.
And we also have, again, a representative from Congressman Fitzpatrick's office.
Again, my name's Ryan from Congressman Fitzpatrick's office. I'm here to say congratulations and, thank you for everything that you, Tom and Amy, have done over the last 6 years. The community is forever grateful for everything. We've had the pleasure of working with you guys for many years now, and obviously, hopefully that can still happen in another capacity. The congressman would have loved to be here tonight. He's stuck down in D.C., unfortunately, but he just wants to send his best wishes and, thank you for everything you've done for our community. Oh, sorry. I also have flags and citations for you guys. flown over the Capitol in your guys' honor. Thank you so much.
So before we move on, I was going to wait till the end, but I might as well just say it here because it seems to go. I wanted to thank both Tom and Amy personally for all the help that you've given me, how you've mentored me through this process, and also for the township. You guys have been amazing leaders, so dedicated, and our township is really going to we're losing great board members, and it's sad, but I'm really excited for both of you for your future, because I know that your ride isn't over, and I know that you're going to do great things, and I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Thank you.
Should I move on? All right. I will move on to public comment on non-agenda items only.
Hi, folks. I just wanted to pile on a little bit, and to Amy and Tom, on behalf of the Zoning Hearing Board, I want to thank you both for your service. As people have mentioned, the township's a better place because of your efforts. We definitely appreciate the time you've spent away from your families to support the residents of Middletown Township. I tried to get Kevin here tonight, but he's got basketball duty, so that trumped the thank you from the Zoning Hearing Board. But on behalf of Roberta Laney, Bill Cousin, Ernie Peacock, and Kevin, we want to thank you for your years of service, your sacrifice of personal time that would have otherwise been spent with your families, And again, the township's a much better place because of the decisions that you've made. So thank you again for your time and efforts.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
And back at you, Mike. Thank you.
Bill Appleton for Cynthia Gate. I was going to come up here and talk about like drainage, but I think I'll just, I think I'll forget about that. I think one of the most important things, gifts that we can give is to help the community, and I think both of you have done that amazingly. Tom, besides being on this Board of Supervisors, you know, chair of the Bucks County Planning Commission, board member of the Bucks County Association of Retired Senior Citizens, the coaching that you do of basketball and everything else just shows a way of giving back. Amy, the same thing with you, being on the Bucks County Women's Advisory Council, the United Way, Bucks County to knock out hunger, Toys for Tots, and even with your current job, when you know I look at the title Director of Talent Development, you're there and you're still helping the community. So I want to personally thank you. And then I have cards here for each of you from the Middletown Democratic Party. Helene couldn't make it tonight, so she sent me. So
Thank you, Bill. Thanks for your kind words. Thank you. Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Moving on to the consent agenda items. Consideration of authorizing payment of December 6, 2021 bills list in the amount of $1,287,566. Letter B, consideration of approving the November 15, 2021 minutes of the public meeting of Middletown Township Board of Supervisors. Letter C, consideration of approving the change order number 5 for the Langhorne Gables Drainage Improvement Project in the amount of $31,936.09 and payment certificate number 8 in the amount of $22,584.10. Letter D, consideration of certificate number 4 for the 2021 road paving project in the amount of $444,829.94. And letter E, consideration of approving resolution number 21-36R for sewer facilities planning module for the Oxford Valley Mall multifamily redevelopment, 2300 Lincoln Highway, Langhorne. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda items?
Motion, oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I'll make a motion to accept all consent items as stated.
Second.
Seeing a motion and a second, is there any board questions? Any public questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it, 5-0. Number 5, consideration of preliminary final land development approval, 900 Wheeler Way, TMP 22-021-0066, SLD number 21-07, M1 Light Manufacturing Zoning District. State your name, please.
Good evening. Mike McGinnis from Begley Carlin here tonight on behalf of the applicant, Greek Development. I also have behind me Matt Schlinwein on behalf of Greek and Jeff Skinner, who's the project engineer, and also Mark Roth, who's our traffic engineer. The property is located at 900 Wheeler Way. The tax parcel ID is 22-21-66, and it's zoned M1 in the light manufacturing district. The property is approximately 19 acres. We did appear in front of the zoning hearing board back in July and received variances for building coverage, impervious surface, height, and the setback from Route 1. Recently, we were fortunate enough to also appear in front of the Planning Commission and receive recommended approval, so we are here in front of the board tonight. The property, as you can see on the aerial, which is in front of you, is presently improved with a newer, what I'm labeling a office warehouse space, which is to the front of Wheeler Way, which is approximately 59,993 square feet. which we would be keeping with this proposal. So just to clarify, if there's a question, that building is not being modified or demolished, and we would be eliminating the 181,000 square foot building to the rear, which is an older office warehouse space. The newer building was built in approximately 2008. It's modern and for the most part state-of-the-art, whereas the structure to the rear was built in 1980 and really lacks functionality presently. If you also see on the plan, there's a bit of a gap between the 60,000 square foot building and the 181,000 square foot building. And after we demolish the 180,000 square foot space, this gap, as Jeff has indicated, would be eliminated, and you can see the existing setback with the 180,000 square foot space would be modified slightly to align with the 60,000 square foot space to the front of the property. What we're doing is we're trying to modernize this layout to be able to attract sort of the tenants that we believe are going to bring the sort of jobs that Middletown Township would like, and we think that this new structure and the investment that Greek Development is making into the site is going to have a substantial positive effect here. The leases that are remaining on the site in the 180,000 square foot building will expire in the spring, so there is not a commitment with respect to any tenants that would be entering into the period where we would be looking to move forward with the demolition of the existing structure. We have only 2 waivers associated with this project, and we can get into those in a minute. But one of the waivers is a sidewalk waiver from 440-509, in which we are willing to provide a fee in lieu. And then there is another waiver request from 440-421E4, which pertains to parking areas closer than 15 feet from the nearest wall of a building. We're also excited, I would just note that because of the age of the existing building that's being demolished, in addition to the improvements with respect to the modernization and the ability to market to new tenants, our stormwater management plan on this site is going to be drastically improved as we move forward. Functionally, this is approximately a 30,000 square foot addition when you net out what's being demolished and what we're looking to build here, and less so actually when you take into account the mezzanine, which is in the existing building. So we thank you for your consideration. I'm going to turn this over briefly to Matt to just give a little bit of color to who Greek Development is and their plans here, if anyone is on the board is unfamiliar with Greek, and then have a brief walkthrough of the site design from Jeff. So thank you again.
Thanks, Mike, and thank you guys for hearing us tonight. So Greek Development, we're a family, regionally based, design, build, construction, and development company. We focus predominantly on industrial assets similar to this asset. We actually own this building in partnership with Principal Financial. That partnership owns this asset as well as the Bristol Industrial Park in the neighboring Bristol. And that's approximately 3 million square feet. We're traditionally a long-term holder. We've held this asset for a while, as well as the Bristol Industrial Park, and we like to market the buildings to, local and regional and some national tenants. When we acquired this park initially, we acquired it with a lease in place. And the plan was to add value by putting up the more modern structure that's in the front yard. We came in front of all of the respective boards, got approvals at that time, and then built that structure in the front yard, which is currently leased. So as Mike mentioned, with kind of the modernization of the portfolio and looking to reinvest back into the asset, a number of years ago, what Mike didn't mention is we did look at just trying to use what was there and more modernize just kind of the exterior appearance of the asset by doing a major exterior overhaul. It looked pretty good, but it didn't quite get us the ability to release the asset to the higher quality tenants that we were looking for. So when we were reevaluating the portfolio, we decided that this is an opportune time to remove the existing structure and, generally speaking, put back a very similar size structure, but just a more modern asset that we think we can attract better quality tenants to the park. So that's what we're here tonight to ask you guys to approve. And if there's any other questions about Creek development or the project or the tenants that we're looking to attract, I'll be here after Jeff gives the presentation on the technical information of the proposed addition to answer those questions, unless you guys want to do any questions now.
Yeah, I mean, I do. So you don't know what's going in there? You just...
That's correct. So what we generally do is we build and acquire assets that will hold for an extremely long period of time. So our typical building will see through its life cycle. It could be as many as 5 to 10 different tenancies over time. So right now we have the building becoming vacant, and rather than just continue to try to release it to proposed tenants, we decided that we would demolish the existing structure, put back the new structure on speculation that will attract better tenants. So you can imagine it's a significant capital investment to make on our part, but we feel that doing that will not only attract a good tenant for potentially the next 5 to 10 years with the first tenant that we'll lease the building to, but over the next 50 to 100 years with multiple tenants that we'll be able to lease the building to. We generally build a high-quality asset that's appealing and have the ability to continue to release it over the years to a number of different tenants.
And the reason I ask is if you don't know what's going in there, but you're asking for 2 waivers, one for the sidewalk and one for the parking.
Correct.
I mean, are we sure that the people or company or whoever moves into there maybe needs that sidewalk or don't need the sidewalk or the additional parking? I mean...
Sure, it's a good question. So on the parking, I don't believe it's a number of spaces type situation. It's just more about the orientation of the parking field and the setback of the parking to the building, which is similar to the existing condition. So I think we did work with the township's professionals that requested us to put some bollards in to better protect the sidewalk, which we're going to do. And that we said the same to the Planning Commission, that was a will comply. And as far as the sidewalk, I think that was more for a frontage sidewalk, where none of the other buildings in the park have sidewalks. So this would essentially kind of be like a sidewalk to nowhere. So we figured, since it doesn't appear to be that there's a lot of redevelopment of all the existing assets, that we would do the fee in lieu of the sidewalk.
We are compliant from a parking standpoint. The waiver request is because of the orientation of the spaces. They would be closer than the 15 feet that's outlined in Saldo to the nearest exterior wall. And one of the comments that came up at the Planning Commission regarding a safety issue was whether we were, I believe, willing to put in bollards to make sure that it wasn't a safety issue regardless of who the tenant was, and we indicated that we would do that. So it's not a waiver request or any relief with respect to the number of spaces. We're confident we have a significant, we're fortunate actually, we have a significant amount of parking that we think will be fitting to handle whatever tenant ends up or tenants end up occupying the space.
Okay.
How many tenants do you have right now?
Tenancies right now, so at the present time, we have, I believe it's 3 tenants. One that will be vacating in April. The tenant Taste Point in the front 60,000 square feet that will be staying. And then we have a short-term lease right now just to collect some income until we tear down the building. That's a month-to-month lease. So
And how
just
many will you be looking to fill the facility?
Ideally, we would lease the new addition to just one tenant. In this market, that would definitely be preferred. That's why we're kind of modernizing the asset to make it more appealing to hopefully lease it to one tenant. The existing building is kind of cut up and has various different roof heights, so it's been a struggle over the years, and we've been leasing, to as many as 3 to 4 tenants in the building now. But I would expect that we'll likely see one. If, we were going a period of time vacant, we might start to consider demising it, and I would think the most that we would potentially do is 2 tenants in the back with the existing tenant in the front, so then it would be 2 or 3 total. Yeah, so like Mike was just asking for me to give an example of some of the existing tenancies in Bristol. So, we've got, it's pretty much anything that's permitted in your zone. We've got existing small light manufacturers, some storage guys, third-party logistics, some moving companies. traditionally those types of businesses. We have actually Pitney Bowes, which is associated with the post office, doing sortation in one of our facilities in Bristol. Periodically, we'll get some I guess you would call them like quasi-retail use, like Lennox was in here doing wholesale for a while, those types of tenants.
How long do you expect the whole demolition and construction process to take, and when are you targeting to actually have a tenant?
That's a great question. I wish I had more time, but they'll make me do it very fast. So generally speaking, for any of our ground-up projects that are in this, plus or minus 200,000 square foot time frame, from start to finish, the expectation is that it'll be completed in about a year. So we would hope that we will be generally ready for a tenant. If all goes well and we start the demolition on time in April, we would expect that we would be ready for a tenant to start moving in with some of their fit-out work toward the end of next year and into the first quarter of 2023, with them probably becoming operational, say, like mid-year 2023. But all along, we will be keeping our existing tenant in the front of the asset while we're under construction. We've coordinated everything so that we can do that with them there.
Any other questions?
Thanks.
Good evening. My name's Jeff Skinner from Atlas, the consulting engineers and responsible for the land development design. Just to reiterate what Mike had initially discussed is the building, as you can see, the proposed building outlined in yellow here is fairly similar to the footprint of the existing building. It's just slightly shifted for improving access for truck loading to the building, and will abut the existing 60,000 square foot building to get rid of the courtyard area here, which is not very functional. To improve the site, we're proposing to tear down the existing 180,000 square foot building and replace it with the new one with the footprint shown. Looking at the site, there's really not a whole lot that's going to change from the site. The truck court area will still enter at the existing driveway location on the left of the buildings, and the employees and public will enter on the right. The driveway there will also not change. The parking lots, for the most part, will only have minor changes, but the locations will remain the same. Also, there's an additional truck loading area that will remain tucked in to behind the post office building on the site. So really the site itself is not going to be geometrically changing, but upgrading in visualization. So I'll proceed to the site plan showing the full site with the 60,000 square foot building and the new proposed building here, the truck loading areas to the left side and the parking areas to the right. We are proposing a fire lane to encompass the back side of the building along the Route 1 side for better access for fire and safety equipment. We will also be including this in a truck driveway that will connect the truck loading dock area to the additional truck parking area as it exists on the site. This will allow the tractor trailers to access the two areas without going back out onto Wheeler Way and disrupting traffic in that regard. We will be upgrading the existing parking lot areas with new landscaping, lighting, and islands. Also, the building will be brought up to code requirements for stormwater management, both the township and state requirements. We're proposing underground detention basins that will have the roof leaders directed into them for absorption and infiltration of the stormwater. Presently, the existing 180,000 square foot building has no stormwater management facilities whatsoever. The drains just drain directly into the surrounding drainage swales without any detention facilities whatsoever. So, as Mike discussed, the two waivers we are requesting, the one is dealing with a 15-foot setback for the front parking areas. For the most part, the building is at 15-foot setback in the parking, except for some bump out areas for architectural features surrounding the front entrances to better offset the entrances. So we will be requesting a waiver for that requirement, and also the sidewalks along Wheeler Way. Presently, there are none. The ordinances require they be constructed with a land development application, and as there are none in the park, we are requesting that waiver as well. I've also got a rendering here of what the facility will look like. You can see here is the existing 60,000 square foot building on the front of the site, and the proposed building will be very similar in nature. It'll be cohesive design, same construction materials, and you see the two entrances set up with the offsets that we're requesting the waivers for. So, but we are bringing the site up to current standards for Middletown Township, and also PADEP and PDS requirements for stormwater management, and believe that this construction will improve the site immensely from as it exists today. So that being said, if there's any questions concerning the engineering, I'd be happy to answer them.
Anybody have any questions? I'll make a motion to grant preliminary final land development approval for the warehouse facility at 900 Wheeler Way, S/LD number 21-07, with the following conditions. Applicant shall comply in full with all requirements of the Middletown Township Subdivision and Land Development Ordinance and the Middletown Township Zoning Ordinance unless relief was granted by the body having jurisdiction. And all remaining review letters, comments are to be addressed in full to the satisfaction of the township.
Second.
Seeing a motion and a second, any board questions? Any public questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it, 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Have a great night.
Thank you very much, guys.
Yep. Next on the agenda is consideration of approving the terms for a collective bargaining agreement with the Teamsters Local 107, January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2024. Mr. Valla.
Good evening, Board. Congratulations, both Tom and Amy. You will certainly be missed by us. I am pleased to report to the Board that Township staff or management have been negotiating with Teamsters Local 107. We're happy to share that we've reached tentative agreement on a new collective bargaining agreement for a 3-year term, taking us through the end of 2024. The memo you all have has the details of the tentative agreement, and some of the highlights include, in addition to the 3-year term, a new realigned pay scale that we put a lot of thought into for 2022, and 3.5% increases for the last 2 years in 23 and 24. Memorializing some existing benefits and practices such as parental leave and short-term, long-term disability. Addition of the Juneteenth holiday. And last but not least, a handful of items specific to the Fire Marshal office. And so we are requesting approval of the terms of this agreement, and we will be finishing the contract in the coming weeks. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Valla. I mean, one of the things, obviously, this is near and dear to my heart. I've always been real pleased to know that we've never had no impasse or anything with any of our collective bargaining agents or agreements here in the township. We do have superb staff, and this group is another one that really is beneficial to this township and the things that they do. So you will have my support with this. So I will make a motion to approve the terms of a collective bargaining agreement between Middletown Township and the Teamsters Local 107 for a term January 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2024.
I'll second.
I'll see it's a motion and a second. Is there any questions for Mr. Valla? Any public questions? I'll give you a second to get over there to see. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Valla and the staff for getting this done. Thank you. Next on the agenda is consideration of approving the 2022 budget and budget resolution number 21/37R. Ms. Tealy-Coles.
Good evening. Thank you very much. We have this evening for the board's consideration the 2022 budget. The budget was presented in November. It has been available to the public for public inspection over the last 20 days. We have fielded a couple of questions, but the budget has not changed from the initial presentation that we made to you. High-level comments, it is a $39 million budget with no proposed tax increase. And so it really is here for the board to consider adoption. Your motion would be to approve the budget and the budget resolution.
Is there a motion to accept the budget?
I move to approve the budget and budget resolution for 2022.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any board questions?
I just want to state I'm pleased we're considering for approval tonight our sixth balanced budget with no tax increase, and congratulations to the staff on a great effort.
Yeah, and I'd like to echo what Ms. Strauss said. It is our sixth one with no budget increase. I know when I started getting involved in this, one of the reasons was because we've looked at the largest tax increase we ever saw here in the township. So I'm very proud that for 6 years we've been able to balance a budget, be able to take care of the staff, be able to do the things that we needed to do here in the township, and without raising taxes on our residents. So thank you to the staff also. All right, is there any public questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 5-0. Moving on to consideration of enacting ordinance number 21-07, Alternative Energy Ordinance. Mr. Esposito.
Thank you, Mr. Tossi. So as the board will probably remember, this ordinance was in front of you in the beginning of October, and at that time you authorized me to send it to the Bucks County and the Township Planning Commissions for review and comment. It has gone to both of them. We've received a few comments from the Bucks County Planning Commission, which I'll go over in a minute, and it was recommended for approval by the Township Planning Commission. It was properly advertised in the papers and sent to the law library as well. So the Alternative Energy Ordinance was based on a model ordinance prepared originally by the Bucks County Planning Commission. The intent of the ordinance is to incentivize land development at the beginning of the process to include alternative energy systems, including solar, wind, and geothermal systems. The ordinance includes reasonable regulations and restrictions for these systems to protect the public health and safety. But one of the main points of the ordinance is it includes bonuses to encourage the use of these systems in the land development process. Those bonuses include reduction in permit and escrow fees, as well as possible increases in density and building coverage. Those are based off of how well they incorporate those alternative energy systems into their land development. As I said, it was already sent to the planning commissions. The Bucks County Planning Commission made 3 comments to change. One was to incorporate into the ordinance to send any property that might have historic value, send it to the Township's Historic Preservation Commission for their comments on whether such a system should be included. Another one was moving some of the standards for building the roads that we put in there and where the buildings will be set back. They wanted us to remove that from the zoning ordinance and put it in the subdivision and land development ordinance, which gives the township a little bit more flexibility on granting waivers as opposed to making the builders go and get variances. And the other one was to try and include a minimum time period for those systems to be in place in order to receive those bonuses, because we don't want just somebody to put a system in and they don't utilize it a few months later. So we reviewed it, and we did incorporate those changes, and that was in the ordinance that was advertised. So if the board is so inclined, they can make a motion to approve.
Any questions for Mr. Esposito?
I make a motion to approve and adopt the proposed alternative energy ordinance to provide the regulations and incentives for alternate energy systems within Middletown Township.
Second.
I'll second.
Seeing a motion in 2 seconds, is there any board questions? Any public questions?
Hi, Dana Kane, Franklin Road. My questions are just around the incentives and bonuses, just to get a little bit more insight into them. Do we have any insight into why these particular incentives and bonuses were picked?
So as I said, these bonuses were specifically recommended by the Bucks County Planning Commission. They reviewed, they have direct knowledge of our ordinances, and they're the ones that recommended that we do such, those bonuses.
Yeah. Do we have like a fiscal impact on how much this will cost us from like a reduction in fees or anything like that?
No, because it's impossible to figure that out right now, depending on how much.
We don't have like an adoption rate at the various levels or anything? No? Okay.
No.
And just correct me if I'm wrong, but these incentives basically override a lot our zoning currently, right? From a impervious coverage and dwellings per acre, correct?
Ms.
For
Gates,
developers that put this in.
I can't understand your question, so.
Yeah, so these incentives give bonuses for dwellings per acre and impervious coverage. So they override our current
It's
zoning.
not impervious coverage, building
coverage, right. But they override it would give the developer the ability to override our other ordinances our zoning as we have them today.
Yes, for those specific things, and just to a slight percentage.
Okay. And so, we don't have any real-world experience. Is there any verbiage in there that the board can, adjust these incentives and bonuses as we get more experience?
Yes, we can absolutely
there is.
revise the ordinance at any time as this is moving along.
All right. Those are my comments. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Esposito. Next on the agenda is consideration of acting ordinance number 21-08 for the Langhorne Gables stop signs. Mr. Vale.
Good evening once again. So I'm here before you. This is a follow-up to our meeting in November where we proposed adding 2 stop signs, or I should say converting to an always stop the intersection of Parkview and Buttonwood Avenues in Langhorne Gables. And as I stated previously, through our research, there were other intersections in Langhorne Gables that were not properly documented in our ordinance. And so since we're going to the effort of amending the ordinance to add new stop signs at this one intersection, we're also making that administrative improvement to memorialize the rest of them. So it's only adding or affecting one intersection.
I move to enact Ordinance 21-08, amending Chapter 470 of the Middletown Township Code of Ordinances to designate the intersection of Parkview and Buttonwood Avenues as an always stop and to memorialize the existing stop signs in the Langhorne Gables neighborhood.
Second.
I'll second.
You can. I'll give you a chance next time. I'm sorry, Ms. Payne. Seeing a motion and a second, is there any board questions? Any public questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Vela. Consideration to draft and authorize the fire code ordinance. Mr. Esposito.
Yeah, so this is kind of a cleanup item that has to happen every few years. So the township has adopted the International Fire Code as its fire code sets forth the minimum requirements and regulations pertaining fire prevention and fire protection systems within buildings in the township. Right now, the township is utilizing the 2015 International Fire Code. I've had a conversation with the new fire marshal. He asked that we adopt the 2018 International Fire Code, which is the fire code being more readily available within the state, we probably have to do this every 3 years. There is a 2021 International Fire Code, but that one is not readily available and not utilized as often by most of the municipalities in the state. So that's why he recommended 2018 International Fire Code. Again, probably in 3 years, we'll be adopting a new one. We did do this in 2018 where we adopted the 2015 one. So I'm asking you to authorize for me to prepare the ordinance as well as advertise it so we can adopt it at our next meeting.
I'll make a motion to authorize the preparation and advertisement of the proposed ordinance to replace the 2015 International Fire Code with the 2018 International Fire Code as the official fire code of Middletown Township.
Second.
All right, seeing a motion and a second, is there any board questions for Mr. Esposito? Any public questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it, 5-0. Next on the agenda is consideration of authorizing the purchase of a Celebrate machine and related equipment for the police department. Chief.
Good evening again, Mr. Tosti, fellow board members. So there's a growing need to stay ahead of the curve with investigations involving technology, which is ever-changing, and especially over the past 2 years since the onset of the pandemic, investigations involving cell phones due to drug overdoses, fraud, and other types of cybercrime involving cell phones have greatly increased for our PD and many PDs across the country. So one of the things that a Celebrate machine will help our police department achieve is track where fatal heroin doses come from in all drug overdose cases where a cell phone is involved, track where potential fraud communications are coming from in fraud cases, and preserve valuable digital evidence in a timely manner for any crime involving a cell phone. So this is a long-term investment in the best piece of cell phone investigative equipment for police departments in the country. It will get extensive use by our PD. It is a purchase that I have had in our capital budget for the last couple of years. I finally think there is a need for it, so it is budgeted for 2021. It's my last meeting to ask for it, so I figure I might as well finally ask for it. If the board has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I'll just make a comment. I mean, as a regular citizen, you don't think of things like this. And when I was reading in the packet what this will do, it was eye-opening. And I'm glad this can help you in helping what you're planning on doing with the cell phones, because most people wouldn't think about if you get the cell phone, somebody not wanting to give you their passcode or things like that. And now you'll be able to get the stuff out of there that you need to continue the investigation or even help the person that's there. So I found that intriguing, that reading that. So I will support it, and I'll make a motion to authorize the purchase of the Celebrate machine and related equipment from Celebrate in the amount of $19,460.
Second.
A second.
And I got it. Seeing a motion and a second, is there any board questions or comments for the chief?
I just wanted to ask one question to clarify something that's in the memo.
Sure.
It says here that a warrant consent is obtained to look at the phone, but the owner still won't give you the passcode, and that's when you're using this device. And so we're not looking at gross violations of privacy or warrantless search. This is all very on the up and up and legally approved. I know this, but I just want to make sure that the public hears it.
Yeah, it's only with consent of the owner or holder of, possessor of the phone, if they give us written consent, or of course, a search warrant approved by a judge, then we can take the phone and investigate it. That's it. Everything that we investigate with the phone that's going to turn into evidence has to be admissible in court anyway. So unless consent is testified to or there's a warrant, it wouldn't even be admissible in court.
Wonderful. Thank you for clarifying that.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Tosti, and thank you for seconding Ms. Payne. Appreciate it.
Don't go nowhere, Chief.
Okay.
So consideration of authorizing the purchase of in-car technology for the police vehicles. Chief Barbarella.
Okay, so our current in-car computers, which are patrol PCs, they're nearing 7 years old. It was technology that we got when I first arrived here that our Lieutenant Ken Mellis put together the proposal. They were at the time an excellent piece of in-car computers. They are a little bulky and now getting beyond their useful life. And the other issue with them is eventually they're going to need to be updated because they are proprietary in nature. Our in-house IT manager, Chad, cannot update them himself. We have to ship them back to the manufacturer at a pretty extensive cost to get them upgraded. And when it comes time to replace them, which we have budgeted for, I believe, starting this year and into next year, they're $6,000 each. One thing I'll say about patrol PCs, they have served us very well. We got 7 years of use out of them, so they've been a good machine for us. But seeing that we have to budget for them at $6,000 each, we were at a trade show over the summer. Chad noticed that a vendor had a Microsoft Surface Pro set up, similar to a patrol PC. And the Surface Pros with the protective case and mount were $4,000 less than the patrol PCs were. And they were also much more user-friendly, and they could be upgraded directly by our IT rather than having to send them out at an extensive cost. So the difference is about $4,000 per unit. So it's at $2,000 for a Surface Pro, the protective case and mount, as opposed to $6,000 for Patrol PC. Because we have the amount budgeted, we are asking to replace all 36 in-car computers. I believe we're going to make a partial purchase at the end of this year, and then purchase the rest at the beginning of next year. I don't know exactly how that's partitioned in the budget, but we are asking to do a wholesale replacement of all in-car computers with our current IT capital budget.
Is there any questions for the chief?
I move to authorize the purchase of 36 Microsoft Surface 7 Pros, 36 4-year accidental warranties and mounting equipment in the amount of $75,153.24.
I'll second.
Seeing a motion and a second, is there any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it, 5-0.
Thank you, Ms. Strauss, and thank you, Ms. Payne, again for seconding.
All right, next on the agenda is consideration of authorizing replacement of the municipal building surveillance camera system. Mr. Chad.
Good evening. First, I'd like to say it was a pleasure working with you, Tom, and with you, Amy, and you'll be greatly missed. So in 2001, when the building was built, we had surveillance cameras on the police side, I was told, and then roughly about 2011, we added additional cameras around the administration and everything. These are analog cameras. We've replaced the DVR. We've replaced many hard drives that have failed as well, and cameras, especially the exterior cameras. The quality is not great. And these are also the cameras they use in the prison, in the cells. So it's time that for the safety of, the employees and people who come to the building that we get these cameras replaced with better quality digital cameras. So what you have in front of you is a whole brand new system, all new runs, roughly about 36 cameras. There's going to be all different cameras depending on the type of location where it is. And we're asking for the board to approve this now because getting this hardware is going to take some time. And we did budget money this year, roughly about $32,000, and then I believe we moved it into 2022 when we figured out how much the cost was really going to be. And we're looking at We budgeted $57,000 in 2022. We're looking at $51,000 to do this project. Any questions?
And when are you looking to get these installed?
Most likely, the install won't probably start until like January, most likely. It depends when we can get the equipment in, and how long it'll take with everything that's going on in the world. But they can at least maybe start all the Ethernet runs and all that stuff, so the coaxial cables, that all needs to be taken out, all brand-new runs and everything.
Will there be an additional cost for installation?
No, it's all included.
I just have a comment, and I can remember, well, thank you for your kind words, but I remember the first time you were at that mic and how nervous you were, and I have to tell you, you seemed more relaxed tonight than you did that first time, so kudos to you.
Oh, thank you. I think this might be the second time I've been up here since.
So you vastly improved.
Thanks.
I move to award the replacement of the building surveillance camera system to PrismWorks Technology in the amount of $51,655.
Thank you.
I'll
I'll second.
Seeing a motion and a second, is there any questions, board questions?
I'll just make a quick comment that this is a nice full circle moment for you, Tom, because one of your first priorities as a board member was getting a safe exchange zone in the parking lot for people to buy and sell items off of Craigslist then, but now Facebook Marketplace. And we talked a lot with the chief about, is our parking lot safe? Are we able to kind of assure folks that this would be a place that they could come and exchange money? And to get this upgraded camera system hopefully can make your initial initiative even more secure, and that particular piece of your legacy going forward will be safe.
Thanks, Mr. House. Is there any public questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 5-0. All right. Moving on, consideration of awarding the Middletown Township Financial Auditing Service contract. Ms. Bondry.
Good evening. I always have trouble with this mic because I'm so short. So you guys are probably used to me getting up here like that every single time. Amy and Tom, thank you so much, for everything. And we're going to miss you very much. Best wishes in the future. I hope everything goes well, and hope to be in contact in the future. All right, so as part of best management practices, as you know, on August 16th, 2021, we asked for the authorization to advertise the financial audit services RFP. We asked for submissions by qualified certified public accountants with a due date of October 1st, 2021. We are now asking that we award this contract. After careful consideration, we are requesting to keep our current auditor, B. Bergwall Incorporation. They have been doing an amazing job. We've worked with them for over 11 years. We've won many GFOA awards with them. We have a really great relationship with them overall, and there's no reason on our end to switch auditors. We did go out, like I mentioned, for best management practices to see what was out there, and after reviewing, only one other auditor came close to the qualifications, which was BBD. They are only $3,000 less, and over a course of a year. With that being said, our relationship with B. Bergwall, as well as just the experience overall, I think is a big reason to keep them over going to the lowest bidder and the next qualified candidate. So I just request that we move forward with awarding this if possible.
Am I correct that even though B. Bergwall was not the lowest bidder, and there was a lower bidder, a lower qualified bidder, there would be internal cost involved with changing from one company to another that kind of pretty much makes it a break-even proposition?
Yes, I think overall, because of our experience with B. Bergwall, the time needed to work with them and get them information will be less than what would be required with the newer audit services. There could be a chance of overtime and various other hours associated with the internal staffing to come up with new information that they may need because they don't know our account.
Is there any other questions for Ms. Bonder? Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll move to award a contract to B. Bergvall and Company for Middletown Township's financial auditing services.
I'll second.
Seeing a motion and a second, is there any board questions? Any public questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? Ayes have it, 5-0.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the Public Works Yard improvements. Mr. Kessler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Board of Supervisors. We have a couple of slides to show some exciting improvements that we have planned for the Department of Public Works yard. For those unfamiliar with the overhead view of the yard sits off of Veterans Highway. To the south is the Veterans Memorial Park. You can see Mill Creek kind of surrounds the top and rear of the yard. So it's an interesting place as far as environmental management is concerned, and the facilities are quite aged, dating back to the 1950s in some regards, and the operations, the Department of Public Works staff does an excellent job keeping everything moving swiftly, but there's some improvements that we can make, beginning with focusing on the fuel tanks and then the winter operations that can greatly improve the efficiency for not only the current operations, but looking ahead to meet the township needs. So we wanted to provide an overview of the beginning of a phased approach to address some upgrades to modern standards for the yard. And tonight we'll look at phase 1 and 1A, which will highlight some of these initial improvements. Is that working for us, Nick? Oh, there we go. Thank you. There we go. So as mentioned, the phase 1, as we're referring to it, focuses on the fuel pumps. There's currently 2 separate locations. One is for gasoline, one's for diesel. The gasoline's kind of tucked in the back corner. The diesel more so where you come in and out of the yard, and both of which have underground tanks. And the timing of improving these facilities is essential with some permits that are expiring with the DEP. So we figured as good as time as any, these improvements are needed, as well as I mentioned, environmental concerns, getting these tanks out from under the ground so they can be more directly observed, monitored, maintained, and taken care of over the years. The new tanks would be above ground structures, and we'd also look to consolidate where the fuel tanks are so the fueling operations can be done in one location of the yard and add some space to other parts to have the other operations run more smoothly. We'll look to have a canopy structure over the fuel tanks. Currently, there's nothing over top, which makes it a bit dicey in these winter conditions. So a lot of folks would benefit from having some coverage there. And just to point out, these pumps are used not only for the Department of Public Works, but the police department, multiple fire departments in the area, emergency response vehicles use these fueling stations. So it'd be really an improvement for the centralized fueling for emergency situations, winter storms. The pumps at the Public Works yard is a really essential fueling location. So this phase 1 will focus on getting these tanks above ground, and on the bottom right you can see an example of what an above ground large fuel tank looks like. They would be placed behind the fence area for security reasons in the yard. And the fueling location would be moved to a centralized spot where both pumps could still be utilized, gas or diesel, if a couple of vehicles are at the same time. We look to remove the old structures, the underground old systems that are both for the diesel and the gas, and those structures for some canopy and some safety improvements as well. Moving it to a centralized location and realigning the fence a bit will allow us to improve the circulation of the yard as a whole and allow the operations to move along much more efficiently. So after focusing on the fuel, we're looking into moving into the winter operations. So the existing salt shed, which is pictured on the top left, is quite aged. Honestly, it's kind of fallen apart, but they utilize it efficiently, and it does its purpose. But if you notice, there's a yellow sign there. It actually cannot have the truck back up and unload the salt right into the shed. It actually has to be unloaded in the yard, pushed in there, which just adds a lot of time to the operations. It's really not environmentally beneficial to have that dumped in the parking area and then pushed in. So that is something with a new shed we really increase the capacity to meet the township needs more accurately, and also the ability to unload and load within the salt shed itself is a much more current standard to do for that operation. The brine operations is on the complete opposite side of the yard. So during the winter, we have really both ends of the yard trying to coordinate and work together. The improvements for this Phase 1A would bring the brine tank to the area next to the salt shed, a new salt shed, and kind of centralize and consolidate the winter operations in one area of the yard. The existing brine tank, you can see on the bottom left, was a temporary structure, and it's been temporary for a number of years, way past its temporary status there, and it's kind of holding on for now. The garage bay next to that is where the brine hopper is, with the nice picture of Eric we have there operating there. And having a brine hopper inside a steel frame garage is obviously not ideal with all the salt operations. So more appropriately, we'll have a proper structure for the brine operations as well. So a bit of an overhead layout. Has some dimensions labeled there as well, but more importantly, we wanted to show the new salt shed is an example of a more modern one. Obviously, it's greater capacity. It allows you to do the operations inside. It provides a couple of garage bays to keep our vehicles out of the winter weather to make them last longer as well. And like I mentioned, it really centralizes everything in that part of the yard. So the old one would be taken down, the new one built, and the brine operations moved over there as well. And the timing, as I mentioned at the beginning, is imperative at the moment. So to improve the yard, it's not something that can happen overnight. This phased approach allows us to do parts of these improvements while allowing their operations day to day to continue without too much interruption. So phase one, obviously the fuel tanks, which is in this year's budget. We look to have authorization to advertise and bid that portion. And phase 1A, the winter operations, ideally timing-wise, would be just after this upcoming winter. So the salt and everything that they're preparing for this winter is ready. We look to draw that down with the timing once the bidding and awards go out, hopefully in the end of the winter time. They'll be ready to replace those structures without disrupting the winter operations before the next season comes along. So with that, I'd open it to some questions. I know we have another agenda item next with Eric for the phase one, but if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kessler. All right, moving on to item number 16. Consideration of authorizing the bid for installation of the fuel tank system at the Public Works facility. Mr. Gartmeyer.
Good evening, board members. As Isaac just mentioned to you, it's been something in the last couple of years that we've been working on. To give you a little feedback, the fuel tank is at 27 years old right now, the ones that are in the ground. So, it's getting near that time to do something with them. We proposed, after looking at it with staff here, and going above ground was the way to go. After looking at insurance and everything, and some of the EPA regulations and everything like that. So that's why we're decided to go with above ground tank. The fuel master system, which distributes, keeps track of all the fuel, where it's going, who's getting billed, what departments and everything. That was upgraded back in, I want to say back in 2010. That was upgraded from the last system we had. And then also the Vita route system, which monitors the tank and all the fuel when we get fuel and everything like that. That was actually done in 2011. Just a little background. So that's how old some of this equipment is. Also, with the new tanks, Isaac didn't put in there, but we are looking to upgrade to hold more product for both of the tanks. So that way we don't have to order as much on a daily basis, on a weekly, monthly basis. So that's what we're looking at with that. So with your consideration tonight, to advertise for bid, to go out for bid for phase 1 would be the fuel refilling station, tank, and all necessary parts to go along with that.
Any questions for Mr. Gartmeyer?
I move to authorize advertisement of a bid for the fuel tank replacement.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Seeing a motion and a second. Is there any questions for Mr. Gartmeyer from the board? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Gartmeyer.
Thank you. Amy and Tom, it was a pleasure working with you. You guided me in different areas that I was new to this also. Tom, I know we had our differences in the past, but we always seem to work them out. But it's been a very, very nice time and pleasure working with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gartmeyer. All right, moving on to 17, resignations. So we can do these all as one. Letter A, consideration of accepting the resignation of Javon Smith from the Human Relations Commission. Letter B, consideration of accepting the resignation of Kathleen Simpson from the Human Relations Commission. And letter C, consideration of accepting the resignation of Barry Harrison from the Planning Commission. Is there a motion to accept the resignations?
Motion to accept the resignations.
I'll second it. Seeing a motion and a second, is there any board questions? Any public questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Ayes have it, 5-0. Before we move on to letter number 18, I do have one question, Ms. Teal-Equals. We had discussed adding a alternate to the zoning board. Is that something that we have to do in the public setting, or is it something that they can just do at reorg?
I think you can just appoint an alternate.
Yeah.
When the board is ready to do appointments, you can just appoint an alternate.
I know we discussed it in your office, and I didn't see it on the agenda, and I meant to call you about it.
The MPC provides for it. I don't know if you want to add anything, but the MPC provides for you to be able to do it.
Okay.
I think up to 3, right?
Yes, you can appoint 1 to 3 alternates. It's in the MPC as well as the Township's own zoning ordinance provides that as well. So you just need to pass a resolution at a public meeting.
Yeah, I know me and Ms. Teal-Equals, we discussed it when we were going over the agenda, and then I didn't see it on the agenda, and I just wanted to make sure that they were able to do that at the reorg in January. Okay. Moving on, we got other business. Mr. Kessler?
I know it's been mentioned a few times this evening, but it has really been a pleasure working with you both, Tom and Amy, and wish you all the best. Nothing else besides that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kessler. Mr. Esposito?
Did want to make an announcement that the board did hold an executive session prior to tonight's meeting to discuss personnel matters. And also, as everyone else has mentioned, Tom, Amy, it's been a pleasure working with you for the past few years. I don't think I've seen 2 more dedicated board of supervisors or council members that I've worked with, and I've been doing this for probably at least 12 years for municipal services, and your contributions will be sorely missed, but I hope you enjoy your time off.
Thank you, Mr. Esposito. Ms. Tealy-Coles.
So I'll add my comments. I really would like to thank both of you for your support over the last 6 years. I'll start with you, Amy. How nice to have a young woman on the Board of Supervisors 6 years ago, for you to show up and be a true role model for young women in the community, in the region, showing that you can be active in politics and have a career and a family. We've all watched Julia grow up from, you were pregnant running for election to having Julia right here at the Diaz. I will certainly miss your expertise, your intellect, your ability to tackle difficult issues with eloquence and grace, always able to cut right to the importance of whatever topic is at hand. So thank you. Thanks for your support of the township staff. Tom, I think it's funny, Jim was saying his 12 years. I'm the old one here, because I've been at this for 30 years, crazy. But Tom was probably one of my toughest challenges in my career. I don't know if everyone knows, most might, that I was not definitely Tom's favorite when he started, and I want to thank you for giving me the chance to change your mind. I think that it shows such integrity to have to give someone a chance to prove themselves, and I appreciate that greatly. You have always been a strong supporter of the township team, and that is greatly appreciated. I don't think I've ever met a more hardworking elected official. You are someone who is dedicated and committed, and so I will miss working with both of you. I wish you the best, and thank you again.
Thank you, Ms. Tealy-Coles. Mr. Kizak.
All right, one more time. I can't stress enough. I mean, this board is really going to miss your strong voices and your guiding hands. I mean, it really is, genuinely, and I will miss you personally. So thank you again for everything.
Ms. Corporal.
I just want to thank both of you again. Thank you for your leadership and for your support, and thank you for everything you've done for the township. And Tom, also, you really supported me the whole way through, and you're going to be greatly missed, both of you. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Corporal. Ms. Payne?
First and foremost, I want to say happy Hanukkah to those who are celebrating. Tonight's the last night of Hanukkah. I had the pleasure of attending executive session tonight for the first time in person in a really long time, and I shared both of my feelings, but I think it's important to know that this community has been better off for having both of you, Tom and Amy, as representatives, and for your leadership. And there will be very, very large shoes for the rest of us to attempt to even fill next year. I want to thank you both for your service to the township, but mostly for your friendship and guidance, which I know isn't going anywhere. And I hope to continue working with you on other projects in the community, and looking forward to being able to call you for guidance and advice next year. I also want to wish everybody a happy holidays and a happy new year in case I'm not at the next meeting or something. I think there's supposed to be a meeting the 20th, so we'll see everybody then. But if not, for some reason, I just wanted to wish everybody a happy holidays and happy new year.
Thank you, Ms. Payne. Ms. Strauss?
I'm delighted to give you the last word, Tom. If you'll indulge me a few minutes of final remarks. So this started, I thought I was going to be fine. This started as my maternity leave project and grew into my passion. When I made the decision not to run again last year, I agonized about leaving this role behind. But I know I'm leaving the board and the township in excellent shape. Serving my friends, neighbors, and each of the 46,000 residents of Middletown over the past 6 years has been a huge privilege and an honor. And I thank you all for trusting me with this responsibility. I truly hope that I've made you proud When I ran for office, I knocked on thousands of doors along with Tom, and I had hundreds of conversations with residents about what they wanted to see in their community. I told each of them that if elected, I couldn't promise to always vote how they would want me to on every issue, but that I would do my best to think about what they would do if they were in my position, looking at the information that I have. And I can only hope I've lived up to that promise. And there have been some tough votes, for sure. But I've never shied away from making an unpopular vote when I thought it was ultimately the right one for our community. But mostly I want to linger on the bright spots and what I'm most proud of. No board member can claim individual accomplishment. By design, we work together, and Tom Tosti and I have been on this journey together since a cold day back in January of 2015 when he somehow convinced me that this would be a good idea. Sometimes to his regret, but ultimately, hopefully, to this moment where we can look back on what we've built with pride. The skate park via grants and community business support, returning $1 million to our residents because of good financial stewardship, the rebranding and the sign program that unified the look and feel of our township and brought Middletown into the 21st century. Those are the things that people can see, but I'm equally proud of the things that are underneath the surface that people can't see. So to Mike, Dawn, and Anna, who have been my colleagues and friends and will continue this journey, as well as to Bernadette and Dana, who will join them on this board, I urge you to continue our invisible work of transparency, fiscal responsibility, and professionalism. We now have the only AAA bond rating in Bucks County. We have a healthy fund balance. We have a perfect record of 0 tax increases while in office and an award-winning budget. Our meetings are on Zoom, on YouTube. They're posted to our revamped website. Residents have more access to information and ability to participate than ever before. And we have the best police department in Bucks County, if not all of southeastern Pennsylvania. We've also put together a set of interlocking plans, the comprehensive plan, the Parks and Trails plan, the climate action plan, the fire services study, and soon to be fire services plan, and probably others that I'm forgetting. All of those plans combine to create a big dream that we aren't able to stay on and fulfill, but I urge those of you who are continuing to work to make those dreams a reality. So finally, to the staff, and especially to Stephanie, who, to continue my use of superlatives, is the best manager in Bucks County and probably all of Pennsylvania. But also to Nick, Joe, Pete, Paul, Lisa, Eric, Mega, Chad, and each and every person working in your departments. I thank you. Working with you has really been a pleasure, working with you and through you. Thank you for teaching me and being patient with me in the early months, and for entertaining my sometimes crazy ideas, and for being so excellent and professional while we built something great together. I think we're leaving it better than we found it, and I thank you all for the privilege.
Thank you, Ms. Strauss. I probably should have went in front of you. But just to echo some of the things that Ms. Strauss said, I mean, I am proud of everything that we've accomplished over the 6 years. Me and Amy started on this journey 6 years ago, like she said, on a cold winter night. We had a conversation. I never met Amy. I was actually helping her husband get elected to Congress, and that's how I got to know her husband and Amy. And we grew together during that year to be able to be elected to this Board of Supervisors. And we've had our differences, but you know what? We've had our friendship too. So that is something that I will always remember and I will always keep close to me, is the friendship that we've created during this whole 6 years. Because there's people that come and go in your life, but there's some things that just don't go away, and that will never go away. So thank you for everything you've done for me and my family and for this township. So I appreciate that. I too want to thank the staff. I mean, we have the best police department in this whole county, if you ask me. Because of our chief that we have here, I didn't get the ability to hire him, but I'm so glad that they did, and they chose him to be our chief, because of him, we've been able to advance our whole police department and do some things that other townships don't do. Our Park and Rec, Paul, I mean, you do an outstanding job with our Park and Rec committee and our department. It's fabulous. The things that we see in our parks, they cleaned up. They're being the basketball courts over there. I mean, that was like a dream, because it really looks nice over there at Firefighters Park. So thank you for that. Mr. Gartmeyer, the Public Works Department, you took over probably 4 years ago from Mr. Wetzel, and you've done a fabulous job with that. We had our doubts, I will tell you, when you took over. We were wondering, but you are moving us into the next phase, and it's you can see it. You can see it by the equipment you're buying, the things you're doing to help make the workers there a lot better. So I appreciate that. Mega, you were a good hire. I was so glad when they hired you, and I appreciate everything that you've done for me and this board to make it a lot easier for us to be able to just do what we have to do, which is really just approve the budget, because you do all the work behind the scene. Chad, I mean, I want to see you more up at the mic if I can. But, I mean, I know that doesn't always happen. Our L&I, we don't have an L&I director, but our license and inspection department is outstanding. They turn over the permits, and they do the stuff that they need to do to keep our township going, and the funding and everything that they do. So thank them for me, if you could, Ms. Tealy-Coles. Mr. Kessler, you've done an outstanding job for our township, and I really appreciate everything you and your firm do. Same with you, Mr. Esposito. You were definitely a change of pace when we brought you on. Somebody who wanted to get stuff done, and I appreciate that. Ms. Tealy-Coles, you're right. I mean, you made that comment, and I'll tell you, I made a comment in executive session, and I'll say it to the public. When I came on, I wanted to get rid of Ms. Tealy-Coles, and I knew some of the board members knew about it. I don't know if she ever did, but I did tell her in executive session that she's the best thing for our township. She's the one who makes our township go. Your leadership and the things that you do for the residents here in the township it goes unnoticed, but the board recognizes it, and I really appreciate it. And I apologize for thinking that. And I mean, sometimes it's hard to be able to look at that and just say, you made a mistake, but I can say that. I can say that I made a mistake, and I'm glad that that never came to fruition. And I think the residents are better off for that, too. Bernadette and Dana, good luck. I appreciate, I don't appreciate because I lost, but I do wish you the best of luck moving forward, because, I mean, this is a tough job. I mean, the residents sometimes they do get on you, but you got to remember that you are working for them. So you do have probably the best staff that I've ever worked with in any township. And I work with a lot of townships throughout this whole area, this whole 8-county area. But the staff here are dedicated to their jobs and to the things that they do here for our township. So if I can give you any advice, just listen to them when they talk, because they have a lot of knowledge. Every single one of them have a lot of knowledge of our township, and they've been around a long time for that. So I wish you the best of luck, and if there's anything that I can do in helping you transition into this, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. To the residents, thank you. Thank you for giving me and Amy the opportunity for serving for 6 years. It means a lot. I never thought I would be in this position, and I'm glad that I am, because I feel like I've given back to my community, and I will continue to give back to my community, because that's important to me, giving back to our community. It's where we live. It's where we raise our families. It's where the sports are done. Everything is done right here in our community. So I'm going to continue to do that, because I will always be part of this community. And last but not least, I do want to say, Anna, I wish you the best of luck. You know, I met you 5 years ago when I started on this board, and I mean, you were just like a ball of fire, and you were ready to go. And you know, you've got a lot of stuff against you, but I can tell you right now, you don't see that. And you know what? You are like an inspiration to me, and I told you that upstairs, but I want our residents to know that you are an inspiration not only to me, but to our community, because you know what you want, you still have that giddy attitude, and you're still happy, and I'm just here for you. If there's anything you need at all, I mean, please don't hesitate, because we call ourselves colleagues. I call all 4 of you as my friends, and that is not going to go away. So I wish you the best of luck, and I hope everything that you dream about is going to be there, because you're a fighter, young lady. You're a fighter, and we have your back. So with that, I will close by just wishing everybody a happy holidays. In case we do not have that meeting on the 20th, a happy holiday and a safe and prosperous new year. Take a motion to adjourn. And a second. We're adjourned.